Business is good. The store has deep ties to the local community and has been going strong for 60 years. Owner King Pond says BRICS is unlikely to change that.
People are very capitalistic. I don't really think you need your major BRIC government agreements for people to do business. Where there's money, people will flock.
Critics say that BRICS is not a new dynamic, just another form of colonialism that allows rich nations to exploit Africa. Academic Patrick Bond says BRICS will be disastrous for the continent.
It's extraction that is so devastating to environment and to people. And what BRICS, it looks like it's trying to do is make that more formal and legitimate and even more fluid with more finance.
BRICS governments would argue that finance is the key to counter-exploitation, and they plan to use the summit to unveil their own development bank to benefit the African continent and beyond. Anita Powell, VOA News, Johannesburg.
We want to know what you think about In Focus on the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is VOA In Focus, and check out our headline 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, the Vatican prepares to inaugurate Pope Francis. The church looks to define his image. The story when we come back.
Whether you live in Somalia, Senegal, Nigeria, or Zimbabwe, from every corner of sub-Saharan Africa, turn to us for information and experts to help you improve health and life, for you and your family, for your health. Africa Health Network, only on VOA.
Welcome back. You're watching In Focus. As the Syrian uprising marks its 2-year anniversary, the UN estimates fighting between government and rebel forces has taken 70,000 lives. The anniversary comes as diplomats head to the United Nations Monday for the Conference on the Arms Trade Treaty. The conference has campaigners are optimistic that a deal can be reached to control an industry worth an estimated $80 billion a year. Henry Ridgewell reports.
The town of Azaz in northern Syria in late January, where VOA found evidence of cluster bombs being used by government forces. Russian markings on the casings suggest they are over 30 years old. The Syrian government denies using cluster bombs, and Russia says it does not supply them. But the evidence suggests otherwise, says Brian Wood, head of arms control at Amnesty International.
Amnesty International has been, saying for at least a couple of years now that those arms have to be stopped. There needs to be a total embargo on Syria. And certainly if you had an arms trade treaty that was well formulated, this tragic situation could have been mitigated.
Wood says the Syrian conflict is just one example of the huge global impact of the arms trade.
Since the Second World War, we've had almost 400 armed conflicts. That's a lot. And that doesn't even count the number of people dying in gang violence, in state repression, all the people who are injured or otherwise abused.
The last UN conference on the Arms Trade Treaty in July 2012 ended without agreement. There is optimism this time round that the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council will agree on a text. But reaching consensus across the conference will be a challenge, says Brian Wood.
If, for example, North Korea says, no, we don't want this, then it cannot be adopted by consensus. It has to be taken back to the General Assembly.
Even among those in favour of controlling the arms trade, there is not universal agreement. Kay Stearman is from the London-based Campaign Against the Arms Trade.
The arms trade treaty is not going to stop that. The arms trade is dominated by a few very large countries, USA, Britain, Russia, China, France, Germany, and none of those countries are doing anything to stop their own participation in the arms trade.
Stearman says many countries backing the treaty are selling arms to governments with poor human rights records.
Look at Saudi Arabia. It's definitely a human rights abuser in more ways than one. It's undemocratic, it's abusive, it restricts the rights of women, children, it practices public beheadings, and yet the UK still manages to sell arms to Saudi Arabia. In fact, it's the largest customer of UK arms.
The British Foreign Office declined an interview but gave a statement saying Britain operates a rigorous arms control regime and pays particular attention to allegations of human rights abuses. The arms trade is flourishing worldwide, and observers say imposing controls will require a landmark global agreement. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
World leaders are beginning to arrive in Italy for Tuesday's inauguration of Pope Francis I. Zimbabwe's long-ruling President Robert Mugabe arrived in Rome on Monday. He was welcomed at the airport by Vatican officials. The 89-year-old, who is a conservative Catholic, has been subject to a European Union travel ban since 2002 following allegations of election rigging and human rights abuses. However, he is able to travel to the Vatican, which is technically a state within a state and not part of the EU. Enthusiasm for the selection of the Pope Francis has yet to wane, and the Vatican seems to be using the opportunity to try to cement the pontiff's image as a Pope of the people. VOA's Jeff Selden has more.
Inside the Vatican, Pope Francis holds an audience with his cardinals. A steady applause despite the slightest of stumbles. Outside, in the shops near St. Peter's Square, souvenirs of the new pontiff are in demand. Tourists, like this man from France, like what they see.
For me, he is Pope Francis, the Pope of the poor, of the humble, the Pope who is against any corruption. And this is very interesting.
Newspapers show photos of Pope Francis riding in a bus after his election. It is an image the Vatican is eager to reaffirm. Deputy spokesman Thomas Rosica.
At the Domo Santa Marta, where he's still living, he'll arrive late in the dining room. People have already begun to eat, so he just goes around and finds a place that's available and sits down at the table to join the other cardinals.
So far, it seems to be playing well.
I think he is a very simple, humble, and sincere person. I like him.
Pope Francis himself continues to display a sense of humor. At one point during his homily, joking with the cardinals about their advanced age.
Let us give our wisdom to young people, like good wine that becomes better with age. Let us give to young people the wisdom of life.
But his short time as pontiff is not without controversy. Old allegations have resurfaced that before becoming Archbishop of Buenos Aires, he stayed silent about human rights abuses by Argentina's military dictatorship during the 1970s. Vatican spokesman Federico Lombardi Friday issued a firm denial, saying the old accusations are neither credible nor concrete. As for the Pope, he preached optimism and hope.
Let us not surrender to the pessimism and bitterness that the devil offers us every day. Let us not surrender.
Trying to bring light to a church and its followers, knowing weighty issues remain on the horizon. Jeff Selden, VOA News.
Well, still to come on In Focus, Kenya emerges victorious at the LA Marathon. We'll have that and more in the sunny side of sports.
The opportunities are immense.
I don't have any interest.